Alright, boys and girls, let's sit down and talk about the Final Fantasy game you've always wanted but haven't received from Square Enix in years. Bravely Default takes core elements from all of the old school Final Fantasy games you love and puts it into one beautiful JRPG, with a few quirks up its own sleeves. You can't really talk about this game without talking about the similarities it shares with some of the greatest Final Fantasy games. It's got mad classes, something I personally enjoy in a JRPG. You can change one of your 4 characters into a thief or a frickin' vampire. Of course, you can also mix and match class skills with one another, which adds to a great amount of depth in the game. It features a turn-based combat system, however adds a twist to it with its default or brave mechanic, allowing you to take multiple actions per turn, which is to brave, or to defend, which is to default. The story similarities run rampant in this game and the Final Fantasy games of yore. The game features 4 main characters, each one interacting splendidly with one another. These 4 characters, or let's call them heroes, have to revive 4 crystals of different elements. Yeah, it's kind of a story that's been run through the mud, but really, the main focal point of the game is how characters interact with each other. There's always a fear in the back of people's mind that this JRPG will just be too Japanese to handle, meaning a lot of grinding and difficult enemies. Fortunately, it's really not that difficult. Sure, you have to grind a smidge, but it can be done quite quickly with the auto battle function, as well as just making all of your dudes attack 4 times once a turn. It's really quite simple, actually. Of course, if you screw up and don't kill all of your enemies in 16 attacks, you might be in for quite a beating, as they will be able to take 4 turns before you can even input anything into your device. The game's also got some really great art. It's like flipping through a storybook. The audio is incredible as well, the soundtrack is great, and it's got full voice acting, even in the smallest of dialogue scenes. Talking about dialogue scenes, there are a ton of dialogue scenes. Even in towns and cities, there will be a prompt that allows you to see the interaction with 4 characters talking to each other. They do this a lot. Like a lot. I sometimes actually just skip these because they're too goddamn frequent. A trait in most JRPGs is that the games tend to be really long, and this one is no exception. Playing through the first act took me 8 hours, and there are quite a few acts. Thank God it's on the 3DS, so you can take it wherever you go. But hey, you know what JRPGs are for? To kill a huge amount of time. Like a really huge amount of time. So if you want a really deep JRPG that closely mirrors some of the better Final Fantasy games that appeared on the SNES, you should really think about picking up this gem. It's hard to come by.